that we needed back in December, we will have it at Capitol High. It's a program by a company, Plato Learning Systems, and it's a credit recovery program, and it speaks specifically to the deficiencies of each individual student, and you don't have to be in school. You can go online, library, and most students don't fail an entire course. Challenges present themselves, and they miss key elements, and that puts them behind. But with this program, and it's tied to the State Department CSOs and all other sorts of resources. So any student, regardless of, say, a young lady gets pregnant or a young gentleman makes a bad decision, and the time that they miss out, now when they come back, they don't come back dysfunctional. We have something that we can put them into that will facilitate their being restored and then going on and being successful. I was cutting brush and got a phone call from the superintendent that said, "Flint, we're going to do it at Capitol this year." So it's going to be great for our dropout rate, our graduation rate, and credit recovery in general. So I'm really looking forward to rolling our sleeves up. We missed we had a tremendous opportunity this past December to do some things, and because we didn't have that sort of a resource available to us, we weren't as successful with some kids as we could have been. But those are the kids I have in mind, the 7 right now. And when I'm going to call them, we're going to start trying to call them tomorrow. Tomorrow's my first day back to work officially, and we're going to get them into this and get them rolling again.
I'm sorry, you had
There's one right here.
okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry, we have some serious work to do around domestic violence. I think that's why we're all at the table tonight. And I know at the last meeting, Carrie Webster mentioned that there is a state domestic violence registry, or that's in process. Could you speak on how that's going to be implemented and what that is?
DHHR, I believe, you're all handling that registry.
No, I believe
Supreme Court.
It's out of the registry?
Yes, they're having the registry. It's been on the books for years to go through the state police, and there have been challenges for them, and money-wise and territory-wise, and change in the court system. And they are finally starting to really get it underway, but it's still in pilot status.
How do you all, I'm sure you all work with the family court system, and do you think that's been helpful? The family court system deals directly with these problems other than going through the circuit system as we had before because of the backlog.
I haven't stayed from the registry. They couldn't be here tonight, but if you'd like to read it, just send it through. You can get a representative.
That's for them to read.
Well, another question back over here.
I'm sorry, no, you have. I know you have.
Yeah, I had a question, but like Ms. Good said that we are actually here, about domestic violence. But I had a question in regards to the state. You mentioned that you were a privileged child. Although I grew up in the inner city of Charleston, I kind of felt like that as well because I had unconditional love. And I also had a supporting community, although it was in a housing complex over known as Washington Manor. Everyone still came together. And one thing that I noticed is that the children, as our children are growing up, they are not being instilled the same values that were instilled in me as when I was growing up. And one of the avenues that helped me in that development area was the summer job program, that training program. And you mentioned that one of the promises that every child should have would be a livable skill or a trainable skill. Well, that 13, 14, 15-year-old age was where my curiosity started to peak. And that summer job, whether it was job through JTPA or WIA or whoever the resource was back then, was one of the key components that pretty much partnered me with people in the community that taught me what it meant to have work ethic, what it meant to work hard, even though it was for 3 or 4 hours a day, but it gave me a sense of responsibility. Now, I've worked for the last couple years trying to find some resources for children who are in that age bracket, and there's nothing that the state offers for that 13, 14, 15-year-old program. What is the state doing in that sense. I mean, because everybody I've called in the state office said, there's no funds for the children. I mean, there's no funding and things like that, so. Down at job, and yeah, summer youth program, I've talked to JTVA, I've talked to I've called a couple other resources, and I've,
and also from Paul Maddox. Remember, some part of the youth program, the highway program, and all that.
yeah, I read, I did see Mr. Maddox's
That
name on
changed,
some
that's
of
been
them.
changing for years, and it's changed to the point now to where you almost have to be a high school graduate, or this or that, and everything else, and it's really not formidable.
It's not.
The federal dollars.
Thank you.
Yeah, I know that. Yes,
One
sir.
more question right here. Yeah, I really got to run, but I wanted to give the governor this. I researched the school, Senate Bills 573. It was written in 1931, it was written in 2004. It has some language about developing procedure for minorities to be involved in economic development. And I would just like for you to take a look at that and tell me, maybe you could have some research done on what's been done concerning this bill since 2004. And if you look at how it relates to what Pastor Watts is trying to do right now. But I got to go pick up some kids. It's nice seeing you.
Jonathan, how do we get in touch? Give Jonathan right now, how do we get in touch with you, sir?
You can get in touch with me.
Right here, right there's Jonathan. Okay. All right. Please. I'll call you tomorrow. I don't mean to bother you. I know exactly the domestic violence, what you're hearing. Tell me, I mean, really, this is the time that there's such as that, as agencies, things that haven't worked, or things that's not working, or you're not getting attention to. You need to tell us so we do know. Let me give you this. We have a constituent office. I have 8 people that work in that constituent office. If something's not working, or people falling through the cracks, you need to call. And we'll see if we can jumpstart it or get it back on track. And these are all, I mean, I've got to brag on them. They're really good people who really have caring hearts. They're not just there for the job. They really enjoy what they're doing. And if you'll call and ask for the constituent service, Mary Jo Thompson is the director of that. We have 8 different people. And I'll tell you, they can find out answers for you. They can tell you why something hasn't worked. They'll get you an answer. Whether you like it or not, they'll get you an answer. And with that, we can figure out what needs to be fixed. Every Tuesday morning, they come to me with a list of hot topics of what's working, what's not working, what needs to be fixed. And we try to jump right in immediately and try to correct that. And that's their goal. And they're really dedicated to what they're doing. So the 558-2000 is the main number. That's the best number to call the governor's office. 558-2000. And ask for constituent service, Mary Jo Thompson, director.
Governor Manchin, I don't have a question, but I have a comment, and I would hope that you would address the comment. In our discussion last week and this evening with the question about the registry, the problem of governmental agencies and others being able to communicate with each other is a problem. That's a challenge that we identified. A few weeks ago, I heard on the radio where you had identified that problem and was in the process of working with the legislature to get the funds to replace the state's computer system for the specific purpose of ensuring that all state agencies could be able to communicate with each other more effectively and provide a high level of services to the citizenry. Would you comment about that, please?
That's a $60 million venture. $60 million. We're one of 3 states that aren't tied together. Us, Mississippi, and Arkansas. Surprise.
Surprise.
To some form, basically, what we're saying, for me to make decisions, I need real-time information. And we're not getting it. And it's just awful. And I've identified that within the last 2 years as some things that we just have to have. So I put $30 million aside to get it started, and I was going to dedicate $10 million. These are things that have to be done. It's a big chunk of money, I know. But they have to be, because we can't get into the level of service you need. They'll give you every excuse in the world why they can't. It just, the interaction and the way they tie it interoperable, it just doesn't work. And our system could crash at any time. DHHR could come down. Any of them could come down. We have no backup, and we're not tied together. So we're not able to support each other the way we should. And I'm getting pushback. from other agencies. I'm getting pushback from legislatures because you have to give up control to do this. And everyone has their own little domain, if you will. This agency has theirs, and this agency has theirs, and they all want to push back. Now, I work with them to a point, then it's time to go to the press and find out what the people want. And if they want it, trust me, it'll get done. So that's where I'm at right now. I put $30 million. They appropriated $5 million to be spent to get the program started. $25 million they tried to park. I vetoed that part of the language where they wanted to park it because I, as the executive, couldn't get back to use it the way I know it needed to be used. And they could have been able to spend it in a different way I never got to. And I wouldn't let that happen. So I use the powers of the office the most I possibly can for that reason. Because I've got to be, no matter what, right, wrong, or different, it always will fall on me, and it should. So we're going to get that started. We're going to really get that moving in the right direction, but there's going to be some pushback. So we're trying to work with the agencies that have been fighting back right now. And it's basically a time. That's all. Well, you know what? I'm giving up this power and this to do checks and balances. I said the bottom line is we can't make really intelligent decisions, timely decisions, because we don't have the information. So we're changing that.
Yes, I don't know very much about it, but there's only one women's based correctional facility in West Virginia, and a lot of these women in there are victims of domestic violence that have called into practice. There needs to be counseling sent into this women's prison to help the females to cope with what they went through and also to change their lifestyle.
I'm understanding there is, but if there's not, you need to let me know, because the Department of Correction, Jim Rubenstein, he's that. Our Secretary of Military Affairs and Public Safety is Jim Spears. If you're having a problem, you get right in touch with Jim Spears. If you get no response at all, you call constituent service, it gets right to me. So there's a chain that things go through. And I'm just saying, your Secretary is Jim Spears. That means Rubenstein answers to Spears. Spears answers to me. So you get, if you're having a problem and you're not getting the counselor, or you know people are not, you're talking about Lakeland, I'm sure.
Yes.
Okay. And they're not getting the services they need.
Right.
We will be able to tell you, yes, you're correct, or no, you're misinformed. We'll be able to tell you that. You probably know it better than we know it. Okay, if you're going there and visiting, if you spend any time there, I've been there, but I've not spent enough time to really know. So I've got to rely on people telling me what's going on. So if you know they're not, and it's not on a routine basis, then you have to let us know. Jim Rubenstein he's in charge of all that. Okay, and he has a female who's in charge of that. But then Jim Spears is the ultimate responsibility for the secretary.
Just in the other packet, I had a request from an inmate at Lakeland. She said she had asked for resources on domestic violence, that she was a victim, and was told they had nothing. So I just put together a packet, took it to the post office today, and I put a letter in there saying, if any of the staff there would like more information, please contact me. So I'd love to work with you on that.
But whatever you all have, whatever's going on there, and if you need face-to-face, really, trust me, government's not that hard. I mean, it should not be, and I've been pretty adamant about that. But you call for Jim Spears, or call my office, and we'll set the appointment up for you. You call Mary Jo, tell her you need a face-to-face with Jim concerning a condition at Lakeland or whatever, and we'll make sure that happens. That's the best way to get to it.
Last week we talked about some of the victims that come into magistrate court and talk to the advocate about their battery. They recant or have an issue of recanting because they're looking at their bills being due, they're looking at the lights being turned off, they're looking at the livelihood of their own.
Sure.
The person that's in the perpetrator may be the breadwinner. And so they recant because they need that assistance. Is there any fund at the state, not the YWCA or other entities, anything that the state has developed that is solely targeted toward victims of domestic battery? That if they sign a
assistance
DVP,
program?
yes, that if they sign a DVP or something of that nature, that they automatically qualify to get that. That's separate than assistance, separate than welfare.
Separate than Medicaid or welfare.
Yes, separate than that. It is solely if you are a victim of domestic battery, if you have come in and you have done all the procedures that you need to do, that we will give you guidance or
Not that I
assistance.
know of.
I think that that would be, and this is my suggestion in regards to just being part of the court system. I think that would help with some victims not recanting. And I don't think that it's honestly with the income or the donations that are given to some of the entities like YWCA. And that's the one I mentioned. I know there's a lot of other ones, but I've seen YWCA in the courthouse. I don't know what their funds are. I know they get a lot of grants. But if the state's able to specifically have it there themselves, not where you have to go to YWCA, which then leads you to someone else, that would maybe help.
We can sure find out, isn't it?
Part of the temporary assistance for needy families program through DHHR, there is a specified program called the domestic violence option that waives certain requirements for that program for victims of domestic violence.
Is that information given to the magistrate court? Like, is there some information where they have? Because some people don't know where to go. I mean, they don't know to call DHR for that. They just know to go to DHR for welfare. They don't know to go for working in a victim of domestic battery. So, have you all provided that to the magistrate court?
It's provided to, we work in conjunction with domestic violence shelters, and so their advocates should have that information.
It's an opportunity.
I mean, it sounds, I know what you're coming from. You have to check, I don't know. There's so much, I mean, and like you said, this horrible, horrific case that you all just, this tragedy just happened over here, what, 2 weeks ago? I mean, it's just unbelievable that here's a person that had a history of that. And everyone seemed to, pretty much common knowledge, you got to be.
Excuse me.
Yes, sir.
I just spent a little bit of time with that family, and personally, I think, sympathy goes out to what happened to Miss Gravely and so forth, but I think Desmond Clark, he showed signs of having some type of mental health issues ahead of time. And if you look at the history of these two together, right? I mean, like I said, I don't know them personally, right? But it looks like they had a history of depression and mental health.
Something broke down. Something didn't work.
Because she was a child's mother. Nobody kills the mother of their own child.
No, but I'm just saying, but if the police knew,
Yeah, I'm saying the system failed them, both of them. This dude shouldn't have been out of jail, period.
Right.
Because it's going to be litigated in the court of law, and I don't mean to cut anybody off, but I'm going to cut you off, because we're not going to talk about that case, that situation, because that's not where we're coming together. We got one more question over here, and then we're going to cut the government.
I listened to the young lady speak about the breakdown as far as the register, and you spoke about the financial part of it. Why is there a breakdown with government talking to government? Why is there a breakdown as far as financial? You think the register up? I mean, that should be a mandate, that should be priority one.
every agency.
Don't you know Pamela Minima?
Developed over
I thought I met you at the Minority Health Clinic.
when we started converting from paper to electronic, the technology of computers, everyone kind of went their own way. So this agency would get this IT person, and this agency would get this, and before you knew it, everybody had their own system they were building on. Then we tried to connect them, and they wouldn't talk to each other, wouldn't connect. And it takes a tremendous amount of money to undo what they've done over 20 or 30 years to put one system is where we are today. And I think it's a sin. It'd be a sin for me not to acknowledge it and see the problem and not to try to fix it. And I'm getting pushback because when I do that, then you lose your autonomy in your agency, and you lose your autonomy because now we all see real time. I can sit in my office and see what's going on in every agency, which is really what should be done. I can't do that now. And there might be a concerted purpose for me not to do that. I think it's more, I really don't think that end of it. I think it's more protecting their own turf.
But
But in the
thing is,
meantime, people
we're
are
the
dying.
taxpayers, we're the voters.
Right?
People do.
Who do we
You
go
gotta
to
know.
see to cut out this?
Well, basically, if we were, if I'm coming to you and I says, okay, we'll be the first state to do it. We're reinventing the wheel. That should maybe cause you to have a little bit of caution. If we're the last of the 3 states not to do it, that should really cause you concern.
Not really.
Okay.
The thing of it is, if we've got
Oh, I'll identify.
this situation that happened here is not the only situation that's happened in West Virginia. And this act wasn't the only act that has happened.
Sure.
And there's still no communication. Police officers not getting the right information at the right time when they need it most. To me, when it becomes safety, danger to the community, then all the politics has got to go.
You got it. What we're trying to do now is we've said, I said by 2010 we'd be wired in broadband, high speed all through the state. Every police officer, any of these should be able to have real time. They should be able to go to the computer, whether it's a license plate number, whether it's your name, and be able to type that in and get a complete dossier of where your past has been, knowing what they're dealing with. For the safety of the person that we're asking to defend, to keep law and order, most important is to try to help other people from being victims. That's where we can go, and that's where we're going to go. We have really gone after it this year. It's the first time I had that amount of money that I put there that someone else didn't. They're trying to grab it for other things. They're not going to win. Because I believe if I can take this to the higher court, which is the people, they're going to see the value of why we need this system. But I'm trying to work with all the agencies to reason first. And if it breaks down, it'll break down probably by November. If they fight me going into the session, then I'll go to the public and explain to them. Then if I'm reelected, I'll go to my State of the State address or to my inaugural address and address it again there, how important it is for us now to move to the 21st century. We'll get it done, but it's going to be fighting it. There's forces, I don't need to tell you. Every organization you belong to, every agency you're in, you all see it. It's just there, and you've got to break it down. And that comes leadership, good leadership. Yes, sir.
One of the problems with this most recent incident was the fact that magistrate judges didn't have access to the Kanawha County Circuit Court's system. Right now, any individual that wants to pay between $900 and $1,000 can have access to that system. I could go pay for it and sit in my office and look at the case information at the Kanawha County Circuit Court.
Right.
Why isn't that free, available to the magistrates?
Right.
I mean, if I could go pay for it,
Well, you know, the judicial system is a whole other branch of government. That's going to take public pressure to bring pressure upon that. They do have to go through elections, even though the Supreme Court is 12 years and this and that, but that's a process we have to go through. That's a complete, and I agree, there has to be an openness, an interaction. They're still part of this great government of ours, and it's just not, even though that we're separate, we're still all for the same purpose.
but I mean, that's a decision that the clerk, the Kanawha County clerk, could make tomorrow. I mean, I don't know why.
If that clerk can make it tomorrow, then the county commissioners would be the one that can probably put as much as not more pressure if it comes down to a clerk's decision. Because that clerk basically, even though they're individually elected as a separate entity, they're all tied in. You need to have somehow, you know, is that a circuit clerk? Talking about circuit clerk?
Yeah, I called the court administrator's office today and the Kanawha County Circuit Clerk's office to find out how that availability of the case information worked. And it wasn't the court administrator that handled it, it was the clerk's office that handled it. And to set it up, you have to call a software computer group. I guess it's an independent third-party company, contractor or something that you set it up. So, I mean, it seems to me that if, as an individual, I could go pay for that service and have it, the magistrate should have it free, and
Absolutely.
and then they won't be releasing people who are violating probation.
You've got the catalyst to do that. I mean, when the Sago mine disaster I had, that horrific tragedy, I had the ability, and it was based on time, I had the ability to have public support to make changes in mining laws. You have public support now for this horrific crime to make changes in the judicial system, and you ought to see it.
I'll just mention one thing, and it really goes beyond just talking to a single circuit clerk. There is, I know in West Virginia, Association of Circuit Clerks. You want to contact them, and you want to get, if the circuit clerk's the one that can empower that system to be accessible, then you want to talk to the whole association. And you want to cite, it's like the governor said, this gives us a catalyst to make change. And talk to all the circuit clerks. You get that audience, they're all gonna listen, I would think.
And change will happen, but you've got to want it. You've got to be willing to fight for it, but it'll happen. let me just say thank you all. I'm not taking more time you all have, because I want you to know that we appreciate what you're doing. We want to be part of it. If there's a way we can facilitate and make it better, please let us know. If there's something we need to change, please let us know. Hopefully I've given you the best way to contact and get some service if you're needing it for any of your people that you need or for yourself. And if you're trying to get right to my office to make sure that I'm knowledgeable about it, through my constituent service office is the best. 558-2000. But that main number accesses everything. You can get everything through that. Also on our website, we have portals to work out of government website. We're trying to make more things available there for people. And please don't be bashful about asking. All we can is help. Okay.
We want to thank the governor first for coming. I know they haven't had done yet, so I want to make sure you get that.
No, we're fine.
We appreciate it.
More meetings.
We're on overtime, but if you can give me, if you can give me just 10 more minutes. So a few things I'd like for us to kind of talk about, so we can kind of leave with the game plan and to where we want to go. And I really appreciate you guys coming. I appreciate your patience. I appreciate your participation. And I apologize for getting us behind schedule. But we had a little appointment to meet with the governor, really kind of show him the community. And we don't get that chance often, and they came over, they run over behind schedule. So we wanted to take him through the west side so we could see some of the young people out there, and he did. He rode around the west side for a second. And then they came in the building, and they saw the kids, and so he's the governor. He wanted to talk to the kids, and so he and his wife would talk to the kids. And so but I appreciate you guys being here, I appreciate your questions and your participation. And this is good, because we can't get the issue any higher than the state government than to get the issue before the chief executive officer of the state. And your presence here, I think, sends a message to him in terms of your concern and your interest and your questions, the level of intelligence in your questions, demonstrate that people are thinking through issues, and that gets people's attention, particularly politicians' attention, when they have an informed, educated electorate that can articulate their question in a way that makes sense, and they're listening attentively for the responses. So I appreciate that. The lady, I want to read this statement because they took the time to send it, and I think it's worth reading because they're trying to explain what the process is. It's a statement from the West Virginia Supreme Court of Appeals, Administrative Office. The DV registry is up and running in all counties. However, it is still in pilot status, meaning we're identifying training issues, developing training and planning notification methods for law enforcement and 911, as well as completing all the technicalities for electronic data submission. The bill that enabled the court to house the database was effective June the 6th, 2008, and the DV offense and protective order were dated May 16th and 17th. The statewide data pool began in late May. At the time of the stop, the officer would not have had the registry, would have not known the registry was operational because the pilot is not complete. There are still a few technicalities to work out before the database can be fully implemented. The first trainer sessions and full implementation is planned for September, and some notification of education may occur sooner if the technicalities for electronic data submission are completed before September. So in essence, it's obvious, anytime you implement something, you got to get it up and running. And so you have a pilot case. June the 6th is in the date that they're saying that was the effective date for the DV offense protective. The bill that enabled the court to house the date was effective June the 6th. And they're referencing a date before that when the order. Unfortunately, it is what it is. And we live in real time, and we don't live with DVDs and video recorders. We can't back things up. Well, I think what is coming out of this, and I think the question is made there, one of the questions regarding the clerk's access to this data system and so forth. Everything just takes vigilance, and we have to know where to take the question. And so now we're saying if the Kanawha County Circuit Court or clerk doesn't have something, where you take that question is to the Kanawha County Commission. And Ken Copper is the president of the Kanawha County Commission, Harvey Shores and Dave Hardy are the other two commissioners. They run this county as quiet as it's kept. They're the most powerful people in the county as far as I'm concerned. Because all the money that comes into Kanawha County basically comes through the Kanawha County Commission.
and basically they have the budget for the court, for the sheriff's department, and just probably everything else in the county. So a question regarding the use of funds and the availability of funds to purchase something we think that's going to help ensure public safety needs to be addressed to the Kanawha County Commission. Ken Carpenter is the president. I think the number is 3570100. If you dial the number, they can get you there. And I think that's what we've got to do. We've got to learn, have the savvy and sophistication to know who it is that really has some juice, if you will, I mean, to get something done you think needs to get done. Okay? What I want just quickly, for the time we have, to make sure that, first of all, everyone got a copy of the notes from our last meeting. And we'll thank Sister Pam Moore for putting those together. I thought she did an excellent job in kind of putting it together and trying to document the essence of our conversation. For those who were here, I hope that you had an opportunity to peruse the minutes. So if there's something that didn't get captured that you think needs to be captured, we can get those ideas down. If you weren't here, just quickly, what we tried to do was, number one, to identify the community resources among the attendees at the meeting. So who was here at the meeting last time that provides a service, domestic violence prevention, counseling for the abused victim, counseling support for the perpetrator, the alleged perpetrator, trying to do a community resource mapping. So if we didn't get you captured, then we will make sure you get your name, your address, and your contact information, so that we know who it is that's trying to be a part of this solution, hopefully up front as prevention as well as intervention and ongoing support. So please, ma'am and sirs, if you're not captured there, to check the information, your name, address, telephone number, email address, make sure it's correct. One of the things that I'm hoping that will happen, and maybe Sister Sandra and maybe some of you others here that are part of these groups, I would encourage you guys to have a meeting, to have a meeting yourself, to exchange information, to exchange data about the organizations. Because at the last meeting, I recall when I asked the question, was there anyone here that was aware of knowledge about all the other providers? Well, none of the providers raised their hand. So what that suggested, particularly I think, was some of the smaller grassroots organizations that maybe some of you large organizations was not aware that they existed. And the way life works in real time, it's really the person normally that is not a part of the large apparatus that's close enough to the people, really have their pulse on the issue, and they're able to serve as a bridge or as a conduit to bring information from up on high to the community, as well as to help the people at the grassroots community level to connect with the services, and sometimes basically serve almost as an interpreter between the two, trying to interpret and explain between the white spaces. And so that's why I think it's important for those who are directly in the service provider business at any level to establish a network, because you, ladies and gentlemen, should be intimately aware of what everybody else is doing, so that any one of you could mobilize or activate the system. And that's just the best way I know of describing it, that when there is an issue, those who are in the business should be able to activate the system and bring to bear all the resources that could be brought to bear in a situation to help the victim and to try to mitigate any type of negative consequence. Yes, ma'am.
There is a task force, like the Domestic Violence and Sexual Assault Task Force, that meets every, the first Thursday of every month at the YWCA at 9 o'clock in the morning.
Okay, now 9 o'clock in the morning.
9 o'clock in the morning.
Okay, now let me tell you what the first barrier I see with that.
First Thursday, I know. These are the service providers that you mentioned.
Right.
The prosecuting attorney's office,
Right.
Boston Police.